This is, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about establishing your authority. I don't have a handout or PowerPoints or anything for you. I just have this little thing I threw together, and this is just for me to make sure I hit all the points I need to. But in all my classes, I discuss establishing your authority. The word authority, the root of that word is actually author. Um, and as authors, you're all student writers. Um, as an author, you have to be the authority of what you write about. And the reason that you have to do that, be the authority, is that writing, and I stress this in my classes a lot as well, is that alt writing is manipulation. Whenever you write anything other than maybe like a grocery list, well, these still have purposes as well. Everything you write has a purpose. Um, Whether it's a birthday card or a lab report or a research paper or a short story or a memo or an email, everything that you write has a purpose. Most of the time, aside from maybe like to-do lists and grocery lists, most of the time your purpose of your writing is to convey information or a feeling, or to get your reader to believe something or to feel something or to understand something. So you are manipulating them into essentially believing what you want them to. And in doing so, why should we believe you if we don't think we know what you're talking about? So you have to establish your authority to be effective at manipulating your reader. So, you know, to effectively manipulate your reader, you have to establish your authority and you have to write it well. And there are ways that you can establish your authority. One of the ways, and this is kind of across the board, but for example, if you're writing an argumentative paper, a research paper, you want to substantiate your arguments and substantiate your information and your claims with credible research. This makes it look like you know your shit because you're making a claim, you're making an argument, and then you're backing it up with evidence from somebody else. When you use data in research papers, same thing. You are giving us proof of your beliefs, of what you're trying to convince us to believe. So substantiating your arguments is a big part of it. The language and word choices that you make is a big part of it as well. At in some, very in some psychological level, we respond more to sophisticated language that conveys a sense of intelligence. Um, so the word choices that you make, using more complex sentence structures and employing more complex word choices, um, makes it makes it seem that you're intelligent. Not saying that any of you aren't intelligent, but that conveys the impression of intelligence and authority. So that's a big part of it as well. Something else is the carefulness in your grammar, mechanics, and quality of writing. Um, One thing that always makes me crazy is if I get an email from a coworker, and I believe I've talked to you guys about what I show my English 100 students on the first day of class, which is an email from my former boss. Um, it always makes me crazy when I get emails or memos or letters or anything that's not carefully written, that's not grammatically correct, that's just the quality of writing is very poor, it's careless. That, and this is something that employers tell you all the time whenever people who interview others for jobs will always say that, when they're looking over a resume, if it's not, if it's not absolutely perfect, it conveys a sense of carelessness, that this person is not going to put that much effort into their work if they can't put this much effort into writing a resume. I feel the same way about everything that I read. So, even my friends know to text me with correct grammar because it pisses me off that badly. So, you want to be very careful. You want your writing to be as flawless as you can possibly make it. This also conveys a sense of authority. So substantiating your arguments, that one's, almost exclusively, with research papers. Language and word choice, that's something that's across the board, same with grammar, mechanics, quality of writing. Concrete and significant details. This is the secret to establishing your authority. Um, in psychology, there's a school of psychology called Gestalt psychology. And the main principle behind Gestalt psychology is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So that, a human being is more than the sum of their parts. In writing, almost the opposite is true. So whenever you read a story or a book or a novel, often the writer will give you pieces of, they will create solid details and images, but pieces of it. They won't tell you exactly how the character's thinking or exactly what's happening. We'll talk a little bit later. Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club, among many other books, he calls this unpacking the scene, that you unpack the scene carefully with one detail at a time. And what this does is when you give the reader details instead of coming out and telling them exactly what to think or feel, when you subtly give them details, the details make it look like you know your shit, because what you're doing is you are giving the reader these important little tidbits instead of giving them the whole part. This makes it look like you know what you're writing about in a more intimate way. This is also true for argumentative writing, for research writing. You provide the details that are very important instead of going over the whole thing. You let the reader needs to feel like they're coming to their own conclusion, when in reality they're not at all. You're guiding them through the whole process. This is where writing as manipulation comes in. Is a big part of it. The reader needs to feel like they are coming to their own conclusion, when in reality you are carefully, skillfully manipulating them into getting to the point that you want, getting them to the place where they believe what you want them to. And this is where concrete and significant details come in. So a lot of the best writing, and you'll see this in the Hemingway and DeLillo stories that you're going to read this week, instead of the author coming out and telling the reader exactly what to think or feel, they're carefully guiding you to this point by using details. And this is a really important skill for you to develop, because you will find that once you master this, you'll be able to use this in almost every form of writing that you come across. All writing is persuasive in some form. So this is a big part of knowing your shit. And knowing your shit, it's always better if you personally know what you're writing about. This is why I always encourage students to write about topics that affect them personally or that they care about personally. One of the main principles of creative writing is to write what you know. So if you are writing your short story on something that is inspired from your real life, you already are the authority of it. You're the authority of your own life and what you care about and your passions and your emotions. So it's always better, it's always easier to establish your authority when you're writing about stuff that you genuinely know and care about.